Identify deficiencies. Mark each item as pass, fail. So if you guys are using this, then this is nothing new to you guys, right? What I like to see is if there's something that doesn't apply, like one of these inspection line items doesn't apply to what you're looking at that day or ever, don't just skip it. Go ahead and check off NA, not applicable. That way it doesn't look like we missed something. It looks like we looked at it and it doesn't apply. Does that make sense? It's a more complete record and it leaves nothing to question. So everybody good with that?
Those are what I look at to see if somebody's pencil whipping an inspection, because they'll check yes on the things that don't apply.
And then you
like to have one or two of those on there.
Yeah.
That I know this doesn't apply, so if I hand someone else the inspection and they bring it back with everything checked yes,
Yeah.
I know they didn't do an inspection.
Dang, that's good. Yeah, so if you want to build in one of those a bogus item into your checklist, you can certainly do that just to check. That never happens.
You see those on equipment inspections, right? People are checking
Yeah.
yes on
They check everything.
things that don't exist on
Yeah.
a piece of equipment.
Yeah, and so it's clear to you that something's wrong, and so anybody else that reads a report like that may also get the same impression if everything passes where clearly something doesn't even apply to that job. If we made the exact checklist you need for every single thing that's out there, there'd be 1,000. But a lot of things we use, because they generally will cover most of the stuff, but there'll be some things that don't apply. So yeah, it's a good flag. It's a good red flag. Does anybody else have anything else to say about that? No? All right. The follow-up inspection. So Cass, you're walking everything every day. You're basically doing follow-ups after that, right? There may be one task that's just starting up, but everything else is following up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I do a follow-up every day, but when the task is complete, you can finish that inspection report. And every day you walk in the middle of something in the day, but we do the follow-up every day. No.
So check this out. It was only a month or two ago that we created the initial inspection checklist and the follow-up inspection checklist as a general format, so that you can say, hey, instead of doing the checklist of 15 or 20 items, you're just doing a follow-up on a certain assembly, and it just gives you a chance to put something in the description box. Hey, following up on, masonry installation on east elevation. It might be your third time there, but you don't need to go through the inspection checklist every time you do that, because that gets pretty cumbersome. So watch for that when you go into the inspections and you want to create another inspection. Look for the initial inspection, and they're in alphabetical order, so the follow-up's going to come first in that trail, and then initial is going to be just after that. So those are quick follow-ups that aren't going to load you, wear you down with checking all the boxes if it's something that's kind of well underway. That's what I do when I go do a intermittent site visit. I don't get out a checklist and start looking at it item by item. I'll just go out and check either the initial inspection work, or if I'm going back out to recheck something or sign something off or close something out, I'll use this follow-up inspection, take some pictures or whatever. Just so you know it's in there. It's just a different tool in the same bucket. It might save you some time. So follow-up inspections. You got your inspection checklist that you can use. You can use those new ones that I talked about. Access your data sheets, your instructions, your limitations, shop drawings. Does anybody use anything else when they're doing their inspections that we can add to this?
A lot of times we have differences, somebody doesn't, instead of shops, it doesn't match the structural drawings, which it shouldn't, because we're designing as they go. But we're finding out lately, we use CTL where I'm at for our third-party inspection. If there's a variance between the two drawings, they won't sign off on it. I've actually called the structural engineer 3 times for one inspection of different parts of the building, so that she could tell him that it's okay to use the shop drawing. I think you have to have both at certain times.
Do you think civils is another thing, or is that getting too deep?
No, I think there's some differences there too, because, if you're using an old, like the one we have, and I'm gonna use this as an example, we've had a lot of issues, from the owners here. They have an Alta that was done in 2015, and the elevations don't match what we have as part of our civil drawings. So we've got inlets that are the wrong elevation, we've got the frickin' inverts put higher or lower than the outlet, so we can't even create a manhole, without going through the process of figuring out how to do it.
I think you guys in this series of trainings, you guys have probably heard Sean talk about the variations we get between the civils and the structurals, especially the civils being in tenths of inches and the structurals being in inches. Those type of things, it seems like, are becoming more and more problematic, where before they weren't as much. But yeah, that's, I think, depending on where you're at in the build, when you're coming out of the ground, then the civils and structurals are replace some of these, your architecturals or your shops. I think that's a really good point. So I'm gonna add that to this.
I think it depends on, like you said, the scope you're into right at the time.
Right, and I don't think we mentioned civils or structurals at all. So I think that I want to get those included, just because you want to be able to, have the right resource depending on where you're at in the building.
It's definitely a good idea to have, when you're vertical, having the structurals and the architectural. So when we were at Quest, we ended up having to drill through an I-beam to put the last masonry tie in, because it ended at the second floor. There's a steel beam right there.
Really?
So if we would have caught that earlier, we could add it in wood
Was-
and just screwed it in.
Was that? I'm trying to remember if that building was modeled.
Yeah,
It was 3D modeled, and it wasn't. Didn't get caught there as a clash. I guess it was. If it's an attachment, it wouldn't be a clash, right? You'd have to know something to know that. Do
You
we,
have to know the ending elevation of your last tie in masonry and where your floor's at.
yeah, there's not many guys that would catch that. How many guys do you think would catch that?
We actually asked the architect ahead of time if we could fill that void with wood. She's like, no, you don't have to. Just, the Thermax will go right by it.
And it did, but there's nothing back there.
Yeah, it did.
Do any of you guys have come from an engineering background? Excuse me.
A little bit,
A little bit. What does that mean?
like 3.5 years of engineering school.
And then you woke up.
I worked for an engineer for 2 years.
Yeah. So how does this relate to somebody like you then? I mean, can you?
You know, a lot of the engineers you work with and don't have any idea how to build.
Yeah.
That's where it comes
They're all
from.
about the calcs. They calculate.
They know their thing, and you get engineer knows their thing, architect knows their thing, but where they come together
Yeah.
is where you're missing. They missed the boat.
Yeah.
Sean was calling it the 5-foot line. 5 feet around the building, the
Yeah.
civil stop, and then the architect's on the other side of that, and they don't communicate.
Yeah. It's like no man's land there. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. I mean, as smart as both of those teams are, they are still missing some of the real world experience that it takes to just know how things go together. And, guys like us that have built stuff, if you've assembled anything, you're already thinking about that every time you do a project. How am I gonna make that stick? How's that gonna attach? How's that gonna hold up? It's on the drawing, but it doesn't always work, right? So I think that's where Bill and I are trying to get out in front of you guys with constructability review and things like that as part of this quality control program. We're trying to just attack this from every angle that we can see, because we just got to make things better, and we're trying anything we can think of. So anytime you guys have input on that, please shoot an email or phone call or something.
I think the follow-up inspection that's where you're gonna take a lot of photos,
Yeah.
progress photos, right?
Yeah, that's a good time to do a lot of documentation, because that's when there's going to be a lot of work going on. The first day or first couple days of install, you're going to get a little bit, small microcosm of it. But when you get whole wall sections being done, or hundreds of square feet done in a day, get lots of pictures.
The one thing that Cash, but we've been running into a lot, the engineers been making changes on the shop drawings, which we try to stop that immediately, and they create a detail
Mhm.
in shops, and it never makes it in through the contract drawings,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it hard. So what we've kind of added when we do our inspections, final walkthrough, I'll inspect for the structurals, and they'll inspect to the shops, and almost every time, like you said, it clashes, but
Yep.
understanding if you're in for contract drawing, you got a pretty good shot,
Mm-hmm.
it's right, but, yeah.
We've had the same thing, we've got several shops come back for rebar and for concrete and for structural. Each one has their own note and their change in detail, but nothing's been incorporated as one drawing. So,
How-
the case that we received new has no idea if there's been a change in the steel, so no, if the beam pocket's in the right place or not, right? And there's no way until you sit down and get all these drawings opened up, to try to determine which one is right.
So does that happen, like the instance you're talking about, does that happen during the construction process, or does that happen
So, like-
before?
It's like, for example, Nehemiah submits all their rebar drawings, and through the submittal process. So
Right,
we're,
right.
a couple weeks away from install or whatever, months. So it's before we install it, but it's never really in time. And now, it should be picked up through submittal review. PE should be reviewing that and saying, oh, this is new, we need RFI to get it in the contract drawing, but like everyone else, everyone's so busy that.
Are those type of things ever flagged as a change or a revision as when they come back to us, so that we can like more easily spot them?
The
Or is,
PE would have to just read all the comments on the review,
oh really?
which should be caught, but like anybody else,
It can be a lot of information.
it can be, so
Yeah, it is.
it's holding the design team accountable to not, they should issue a ASI or some sort of change document.
I think that's something recent too. That's not something that's been around for a long time, because the review comments typically are just to match this detail or use this fastener or something along those lines, or a weld detail. Now they're actually using those shop drawings
To
to
design.
redesign the frickin' building. I hadn't seen that for maybe the last year and a half.
So they should be issuing a revision to the drawings at that
At the
time,
same,
right?
but they don't. So like my structural engineer, just to keep going on this conversation for a minute. I had this conversation with her 2 weeks ago, as we were on the same issue. I finally got a drawing last week, where my ceiling's done, my foundations are done, I'm going vertical, we're almost, what, 75% erected at this point? I finally get a drawing that's got it all incorporated,
It's pretty big.
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And they're just not finishing their design half the time, and they're kicking it out as a delegated design submittal. So you got steel fab guys finalizing connection details, and then structural engineer comes back and changes plate sizes, and then, yeah, it's on the shop drawing, but it doesn't get picked up because they're lazy. From day one, they didn't want to finish their design, and then they're not updating the drawings. It's all, it sounds like a lot of people's jobs.
Sounds like
Yeah.
it's the industry standard, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's everybody's slipping in that arena. Everybody's in the same kind of too much work, not enough people to get it done situation. Even the design team. So I think that's another thing that we, not that we could catch everything, but we have to be real careful because depending on the level of experience of our PEs, those things can get by real easy.
Well, they're not used to seeing design changes in shop drawings either. They're used to seeing a simple comment saying, revise this detail to match this on the structural. They're not used to seeing an entire detail drawn out on a shop drawing.
Yeah.
They're not looking for it.
Is that something we need to train them better on, or train them up on, or help them?
Have to train up on it.
Yeah.
It's something that hasn't happened in the industry forever.
All right. Give me a second.
All we can do when we get them and we notice it is we actually sit down in our OECs and bring that up. So our owners are aware of it and the owners are aware of it, so they have to talk with their people and make sure, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, maybe that can be something that we address in this HCBI course curriculum. Maybe in one of the later phases or certificates that we start looking into something like that, because that might be helpful. I mean, I don't know if it's just allowing enough time or getting enough people on it, but maybe it's just something that if we get it out there, that if there is a better way to do it, we might be able to come up with it. So I just wanted to make a note, because they're always looking for these types of situations to help improve on.
Really needs to be hammered in the PMPE side before it even makes it into the
Yeah.
assuming I'm doing it right.
Well, you're assuming you have the latest information, right?
Don't have time to go review every drawing.
Yeah.
Do a task, which that's why everybody has their
Their
job
tasks,
opportunity.
yeah. Indeed. So part of the reason why these items keep coming back up is that we don't want to rely 100% on our memory, since we got a whole bunch, so many things going on in any given day, any given hour or minute. Don't be afraid to go back to your resource sheets to get the right information if you're looking at something. Especially, I talked about this in the QA/QC training. Like, let's say you're looking at something and it's the same thing you're seeing every day, but for some reason it's giving you a voice. Like, something's going on here. I don't really know what's wrong. That might be a red flag to slow down and, recalibrate your brain to say, maybe I should look that thing up again. Because you never know. Sometimes your eye will pick up something that your brain's not picking up, and it'll try to send you a signal that you need to check that again. It happens to me when I'm walking jobs, and I'll stop in front of something, and I'll ask myself, why am I stopping here? I don't see anything wrong. But if I look at it long enough, I'll see what it was that made me stop. So try to listen to that instinct, because it's there. It's really there. And then you just go back to one of these resources to chase it down.